All right, Part 1, Surface Transportation Board, Part 1151. Federal Railroad Development Program, 1151-1, Scope 1151-2, Procedure 1151-3, Contents of Application 1151-4, Board Determination 1151, Scope. The project of the government with the file for the Title 49, 1097, the boards can recover the scale of the sale for the rail line with the financial responsible person of the rail line eligible for sale is appeared for the Category 1 and 2 owning railroad system diagram, but the railroad does not file with the application of abandon the line or the public conveniency or the necessity as defined in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1097 C1 permit required for the sale of the line. 1151-2, procedure serve the application of the file with the applicant with the concurrently serve the copy of the application in first class mail on the owning of the railroad, rail patrons, or originate with the receipt of the traffic line with the during the 12-month period, receive of the month with the application filed with the designated state agency and the state of the property of the site is located with the county government, wherever the line located with the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, Amtrak, if the Amtrak operates on the line. 6 additional national officers of the railroad unions employees of the line. Acceptable rejection of an application of the board through the director of office proceedings will be accepted the complete application no later than 30 days after the application is filed, publishing notice with the Federal Register and application is complete. If it has been properly served with the contained with the substantial all information required 1151, except for the modified with the advance waive with the notice will also with the announcement the schedule of the filing completing application of the respond with the board through the director of office proceeding will reject the incomplete application by serving the decision no later than 30 days after the application filed with the decision will explain specifically why the application was incomplete. As the revised application may be submitted with the incorporating portion of the prior application by reference, completing application unless otherwise scheduled in the notice for the competing applications by any other part seeking to acquire with all the portion lines solved with the initial application due within 30 days of the initial application accepted. The board through the director office of proceedings will issue the decision accepting with the rejection conjunction completion application no later than 15 days after the file of the completion of the application will be rejected if it does not substantially contain the information required in 1151-3 with accepted modified advance waiver. And the incomplete application. If the application seek with the file with the initial completing the application and unable to obtain required is primary or exclusively within personal knowledge of the owning of the carrier, the application might file with the incomplete application and files at the same time of the request for the discovery of Title 49 CFR 1114 to obtain the needed information for the owning of the carrier. The board through the director office of the proceedings will, with the decision conditionally it is set for the incomplete and competing applications if the director determines that the discovery solved is necessary for the application primarily exclusive within the knowledge of the owning of the carrier. When the information sought through the discovery has been filed within an initial application in the Federal Register, notice on paragraph B of this section will be published. When the information sought through the discovery has been filed with the competing application for the decision will be issued in paragraph C of the section. Comments for the otherwise scheduled the notice of the verified statement of the comments addressing both the initial and competing application that must be filed within 60 days after the initial application is accepted. Replies. Unless otherwise scheduled with the notice of the verified reply of the applicant's other interested parties must be filed within 80 days after the initial publication is accepted. Publication of the board finding for the public conveyancing necessity require permit sale with the line with the permits concurrently published with filing in the Federal Register. Acceptance or rejection of the board concludes that the sale of the line should be required. The applicant must file with the notice of the board with the owning of the railroad. Accepting a rejection of the board, the termination of the notice must be filed within 10 days of the service date of the decision. Alright, once, selecting 2 or more applications of the time file notice or accepting the board determination of the owning of the railroad must select the applicant with which with the sale of the line and file the notice selection with the board. Serve a copy of the applicants within 15 days of service date of the board decision. J. Waiver. Prior to filing an initial competing application, the applicant may file with the board petition to waive the clarified the specified portions of the 1151 decision with the director or officer of the proceeding granting the denying petition waiver. Certification will be issued within 30 days of the day of the petition. Appeals will be with the director's decision will be decided by the entire board. K. Extensions of the filing dates may be granted for good cause. 1151-3. Contents of the application. Initial application. All of the completing applications must include the following information with the form verified statement. Identification of the line with the purchase include with the name of the owner and a care of the exact location of the line purchased indicate with the milepost designated warrant urgent termination station located on the line cities in the county state with the transverse line identification application include with the application name and address phone number of the representative of the receiver the corresponding concerning the application a description of application affiliation with any of the railroad application is a corporation the name and address of the officer of the directors. 3. Information sufficient for the demonstrate for the applicant with the financial responsible person if the regard for the applicant must demonstrate for the ability to pay higher than the net liquid value and going concern value on the line to cover the expenses associated with the providing service on the line with include but not limited to operating costs, rents, and taxes at least the first 3 years after the acquisition line. With the estimated net liquidation value, and the going concern value of the line evidence to support the estimate. Any offer to purchase the line with the higher two estimates are submitted pursuant to paragraph A4 of the section. The dates of the proposed period for the operation line cover the application. The operating plan with identified of the proposed operator attaches any of the contract applicant may have the proposed operator describes and detailed survey that is provided over the line, include all interline connections to demonstrate that adequate transportation will be provided over the line for at least 3 years of the day of the acquisition. Description of liability insurance cover the coverage of the applicant and the proposed operator. If the trackage rights are requested, the insurance must be level sufficient in indemnifying the owning of the railroad against all of the personal property of the damage that may result of the negligence on the part of the operator exercising track rights and preconditions such as the assuming of the share of the subsidized payment. The will prepared shippers within order of the receive the service. A statement of the applicant is provided no further preconditions will be placed on the shipper without board approval. The statement will be binding upon application. The application is approved. Name and address any of the person who subsidized the operation of the line. A statement of the application for the identifying with the board with the public conveyancing necessity of the permit, require acquisition, or a statement of the line currently in category 1 or 2 of the owning of the railroad system diagram map. If the applicant seems to find public conveyancing necessity of the application must contain the detail and evidence of the permits of the board to find that a rail carrier operating line refused the reasonable time to make the necessary efforts to provide adequate service to shippers with the transport traffic over the line. Transport over the line inadequate majority of the shippers with the transport traffic over the line. The sale of the line will not affect the significant adverse final effect on the rail carrier operating line. D. The sale of the line will not have the adverse effect of the overall operational performance of the rail carrier operation on the line, operating the line, and the sale of the line will likely to result in improved railroad transportation for shippers who transport traffic over the line. 2. If the applicant seeks to find the line categories of 1 and 2 of the owning of the carrier system diagram map, the relevant portion of the current map must be attached to the application. For the statement of the detailing application with the exemption of the provided provision of Title 49 U.S. Standard Code, with the statement of the application approved with the further exemption will be elected. The statement will be binding with the applicant with the application is approved. The description of any of the trackage rights over the owning of the railroad required to allow the leasable interchange to move of the power equipment, empty rolling stock between the non-contiguous feeder lines and the operative with the applicant with the estimate of the reasonable compensation for such rights. They include the full explanation how the estimate was reached. The description of the trackage rights show the include the information milepost of the other identification each of the segment of the track need for the trackage right, interchange of the traffic movement over the equipment, and the frequency of the operation, term of the operation, the alternative to the use of the trackage rights, any other pertinent data. Trackage use rights are necessary for the interchange of the traffic limited with the closest point with the junction owning railroads that allow the efficient interchange of the traffic. Statement shall be included with the applicant and agree with the have the train of the crew personnel take the operating rules examination of the railroad over the operating rights are exercised. If the applicant requests the board prescribe joint rates division and of the feeder line provide the description of any joint rail division agreement that may must conclude with the applicant. The description must contain the following information: railroads involved, the estimated revenues that will result from the division, total cost of the operating line segment purchased, including any of the trackage rights fees, information sufficient to allow the board to determine that the lines sought to be acquired required less than 3 million gross tons a mile or per traffic per mile preceding calendar year with any other pertinent information, extent with which the owning of the railroad employee with the normally ship at the line was used to the certificate stating the service requirements 1151-2A have been met. Applicant must copy the applicant and available to interested parties upon request. All right, 1151-4, board determination. Board shall determine whether the applicant is the financial responsible person to be financial responsible for the board. It must find that the applicant is capable of paying the constitutional minimal value of the line, able to assure that the adequate transportation will be provided over the line for at least 3 years. The applicant is not less than Class 1, Class 2 railroad, or entity affiliated with Class 1, Class 2 railroad. If the board finds one of the more applicant financial responsible parties shall determine whether the involved line segment, qualified line is qualified line, if either the public conveyancing necessary requirements permits a sale of the line segment. The line segment is classified in category 1 or 2, owning the carrier system diagram map. Traffic level on the line segment is thought to be acquired with less than 3 million gross tons over the traffic per mile in the preceding calendar year. Note, the funding not required for the application filing on the after October 1st, 1983. If the board finds that one of the more financial responsible parties have offered to the quantum qualifying the line of the railroad, the board shall set the acquisition cost of the line higher than the net liquidation value and the going cost value or the going cost value order over the carrier to the rail line owing to the financing responsible applicants for the resolve of the related issues raised in the application. If the application owing the railroad agreed with the acquisition price, the price shall be final price. If the trackage rights are sought to be application board shall be based on the evidence record of the adequate compensation for the such right if the parties have not agreed. If the applicant requests that the board's joint rate the division lines carried less than 3 million gross tons or traffic per mile during the preceding calendar year of the board shall pursue the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1075A. Establishing joint rate of division based on evidence of the records proceeding, usually specifically requested by doing so selling carrier. The board will not set the rate for the selling railroad share with a joint rate with the least applicable level for which the acquisition is made. Set Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1077 for the limited board of maximum rate-making jurisdiction rates above certain cost price ratios, and that was 1151. Your Federal Railroad Development Program.